Okay, let's get one thing straight right away. Forget about stolen credit cards or leaked emails. The new frontier in cyber threats is, well, it's way more alarming. We're talking about a coordinated effort not just to spy, but to get their hands on the controls for the very systems that keep our society running. This is a deep dive into China's Typhoon cyber campaigns, a strategic threat that has put our most critical infrastructure on code red.
Just let that phrase sink in for a second. An arsenal of access and disruption. This isn't just a small change, it's a fundamental shift in strategy. According to the Macquarie Institute, we're not just talking about data theft anymore. The real goal here is to plant these digital sleeper cells deep inside our most critical systems, just waiting to be activated at a moment's notice. So imagine the power grid, the water supply, our transportation networks, all just grinding to a halt right in the middle of a major conflict. That's the new reality we're up against.
So you might be asking, how did we get here? For years, the main game for state-sponsored hacking was pretty straightforward: cyber espionage. You know, stealing secrets, intellectual property, that kind of thing. But now, we are in a totally new era, one that's defined by cyber disruption. The goal has evolved from just stealing the blueprints to actively preparing the battlefield. You know, gaining a huge strategic advantage before a single shot is even fired.
This timeline really tells the story of this escalating ambition. Back in 2014, the big worry was corporate espionage. Then, fast forward to 2015, and you get the OPM breach. That was a massive intelligence win for them, compromising the sensitive data of over 20 million Americans. But starting around 2021, the strategy changed. These Typhoon campaigns, they're not just taking information anymore. They're embedding themselves inside our systems, just waiting for the signal to act. It's a really clear pivot from just grabbing secrets to grabbing the controls.
And make no mistake, this isn't the work of some single rogue group. The source material describes it as a coordinated storm system of state-sponsored actors. Each one has a specific job, and they're all working together. So, who are the key players in this storm? Let's meet them.
So here you've got two sides of the same coin, really. You have Volt Typhoon. Think of them as the saboteur. Their goal is pure disruption. They're getting inside power plants, water facilities, holding them hostage for a future conflict. Then, on the other hand, you've got Flax Typhoon, the spy. They're quietly infecting hundreds of thousands of Internet of Things devices for long-term data collection. It's a classic 1-2 punch: sabotage and intelligence gathering, and they're working in perfect tandem.
And then there's Salt Typhoon, the eavesdropper. And the scale of this operation is just staggering. I mean, they didn't just hack major US telecoms. They got access to the call and text data of roughly 1 million Americans, including some really high-ranking officials. And in a move that is just incredibly audacious, they even got into law enforcement wiretap systems. That basically gave them a backdoor to watch our own counterintelligence operations. It's wild.
And believe me, it doesn't stop there. Beyond those big names, there's this whole ecosystem of specialized groups. You've got Linen and Violet Typhoon, who are hunting for zero-day vulnerabilities. These are security flaws so new that even the software companies don't know they exist yet. Then there's Silk Typhoon, which gets into the software supply chain, turning trusted updates into Trojan horses. And Nylon Typhoon? They're the patient ones, stealing login credentials for quiet, long-term access. It's a really diverse toolkit for a multi-front war.
Okay, so what does all of this actually mean for you? For me? This is not some abstract cyber battle happening in a server farm on the other side of the world. No. These operations are a direct threat to the real-world services we all depend on every single day. The question is pretty simple, but the answer? The answer is deeply personal. What's really at risk here? We are talking about the absolute lifelines of our modern society. I want you to imagine cascading power outages just plunging cities into darkness. Picture a disruption to our water treatment plants. Think about our transportation networks grinding to a halt, totally crippling supply chains and delaying military movements. This is all about creating chaos and just crushing public morale during a crisis by targeting the very systems that keep us safe and connected.
So, with a threat this serious and this persistent, what are the United States and our allies actually doing to fight back? Let's take a look at the playbook.
So the playbook basically has 4 main chapters. First, you've got economic sanctions, to hit him where it hurts, in the wallet. Then there are legal indictments to put a face and a name to the crime. There's also public attribution, basically naming and shaming these groups on the world stage with our allies. And finally, there's some pretty cool technical operations, like when the FBI disrupted a botnet by essentially going in and cleaning the malware out of compromised devices themselves.
But here's the catch. As that Macquarie Institute report makes crystal clear, these measures, they're just not enough. Our legal and diplomatic tools were really built for a different era. They're slow, they're deliberate. But we're up against a state-backed adversary that operates at machine speed, hiding behind proxies and contractors that make finding out who did what a total nightmare. It's a classic case of our traditional responses just being too little, too late.
And this all forces us to a pretty tough realization. This isn't a problem that we can just solve in the traditional sense, wrap it up and move on. No, this is the new normal. It's a permanent feature of modern geopolitical competition.
And that right there is the ultimate takeaway. The Typhoon campaigns aren't just a string of technical hacks. They represent a cohesive, long-term strategic threat. This isn't a problem for the IT department to solve alone. Defending against it requires a unified, whole-of-government approach because the threat is to our entire nation.
So a final question then isn't just about firewalls and software patches. It's so much bigger than that. We are living in a new era of conflict, where the front lines are now our power grids, our water systems, and our communication networks. So the real question we're left with is this: are we, as a society, truly prepared for the storm?